to this first step of the journey. Even before we get into what we're seeing, what we're doing, mission statement declaration. First is what it's not, the means and ways of this. Well, this is not for educational purposes at all. This is not a guide of how to. Even if you're my neighbor doing this the same time or place as me, one of us might walk up to a ammo dump. Ammo dump could be anything, not diffused, unused, unexploded munitions. Even if you've seen stuff that you recognize where you are on vacation or if it's stuff where you live, do not attempt this, please, because there's no way to know. I cannot take responsibility for what you are seeing. Please do not attempt to try to imitate anything you see here. I will not also divulge how I know and how I am careful about how I do this. So once this is out of the way, what are you seeing here? Well, I have a new contract between me and the place, because people can have peace among them, but what about the place? This place, between 1 to 3 square kilometers in terrain, is just for the last 20 years or so, even more, just puking non-stop munitions, mostly used, but every once, something like once a year, we have to call the bomb squad because something comes up and it's not uh, been used and it's a dud of sorts and had to be taken care of by professionals, which I am again not. So I have decided after about a week of doing this daily and amazed by the stuff that just comes so easy at hand on the surface to start recording and documenting the procedure of this contract between me and the place. What does that mean at all? Well, as long as the place, the ground keeps puking the stuff up, it says, I don't want this, this is yours, take it. And I will. I will clean everything. 90% of course is small, just shrapnel, fragments, stuff that exploded to little bits. Some of it are just garbage, definitely not even munitions. Could be old pieces of settlement or any kind of metal stuff that is not definitely not munitions. Maybe barrel fragments. Barrels were used for targets or anything else. So 90% of it is just small, but my contract is to pick up everything. And I feel the bigger stuff may look beautiful and big, but I cannot just ignore everything and pick those only. So I pick up everything. So every day has the biggest catch of the day, and everything else for the duration of the day, which is my own free time, afternoon, is mostly small stuff, uninteresting maybe, but with the amounts I'm hoarding, you can actually do a puzzle of sorts and reconstruct this 1 or 2 shells that I have with a piece missing, but the rest of it is intact. You might be able to glue it up, might be able to build one from scratch, just gluing it. Anyways, this is what you're seeing. Just me walking. My partner in crime is the dog, just picking up munitions. So once we got this out of the way and the disclaimer of what this is not and please do not attempt this, let's get to the third, what was talked about, how or what is not was also talked about. Now the third question is where. Well, this is obviously a very small segment of land. I would like to estimate it between 1 or 3 square kilometers of a hill, and that hill has a smaller, higher hill on it, recognizable dome, in a valley between two ridges, with more small hills in between. The area was a live fire exercise from since the British were here, so possibly post World War One, all the way up to post World War Two when they left, and then nothing stopped or changed. The IDF, the Israeli army, took over and decided they will do the same in this terrain. What? Well, mostly it's just mortar shells. These mortar shells obviously have been changing over the years. There's definitely certain types of them, not all the same. How can I tell it? Well, the tail sizes, they differentiate. There's some are much smaller, some are much bigger, some are not similar in shape, the fins on the tail. So we can say about 80% of what you're seeing here is actually being picked up in even a smaller terrain of that terrain. Usually it's just the southern slope of the hill. And I cannot say how, but the amounts are amazing. I can be there twice a day and still see stuff. At the places I walked before once, retraced my steps, walked again, and there's still stuff to pick up. I do not need to use any sort of digging materials, no shovels, just fingertips, and definitely no metal detector. Although it is a dream of mine, sorry, to be able to afford one, and just, you know, find everything. Leave no trace behind. If it's not part of the land, take it and clean it away. Sort of like environmental endeavor, but obviously with risk. So the British mostly lobbed mortars on this higher hill. They might be even over here on the smaller here, sorry, on the wider hill, but short, but definitely not as high as the bigger one. They might be on a different hill, on a ridge, or seeing this as a vantage point to attack from somewhere lower in the valley, lobbing mortars on it. Why the southern slope? I have a few theories. One, the country is seeing mostly sunlight throughout most of the year from the south side, meaning the sun rises. And then when it's the hardest at noon, will always be hard south, meaning every southern slope or side to a hill will be less full with plants, all kinds of flora, from the weeds and the grass to trees and bushes. That leaves more dirt. The dirt can be obviously here full with rocks, but once something is afloat, it's much easier to spot, especially at this season with rains, because the ground, as you can see, is very red metallic, looking like a rusty metallic fin on its own. The leaves are also decaying on the ground, same color. Once you have those two, after the rains or any time with winter actually, and you have a lot of weeds and flowers made a kind of lower uh, level of plants coming out of everywhere. It's very hard to see everything. You will see um, when I start circling the hill and leave this southern slope, there's much more coverage of everything plant-wise. So the next theory is why I see a lot of those little bits, smaller bits of fragments and shrapnel sitting on the flat rock beds that are obviously clear of anything else, just a rock bed, flat surface. Now, one of my fears is just like the old days when people were looking for gold in rivers. You'll have sort of a filter in your pan to filter out stuff. I think maybe during the rains, the ground and the water keep flowing over those rocks, but when the heavy stuff from metal gets to the bedrock, it just sticks, no fraction like the water. The water keeps on dripping, and those metal parts just stain like someone dropped them, clear as daylight, obvious dark fragments on a white, bright piece of rock. Now you will see eventually that a lot of the bigger finds are just laying on those rocks or even higher on top of rocks that are obviously someone put it there. Why is that? Is this fake? Well, it's a very small amount of land, like I said, but it's been occupied. It's been settled since mid 80s. People have been here walking this small amount of terrain, just hiking, walking dogs, doing stuff with as young kids or adults. And I think maybe I did some of these findings and put them on a rock because I didn't want to take them with me, obviously. But people are feeling responsible for the animals, for their kids, and they don't want anyone to step on it, get cut or something. So just they pick it up, place it, and there it goes, just flat, dried, clean of dirt, just rusting away. So obviously, after I had like almost a week of picking up stuff without documenting it, I was amazed at the amount. Started documenting it, but I already spent a week taking stuff out, so I was seeing less of the big findings, which are very exciting for everyone. So I decided to go away from the southern slope to areas which had less of the smaller debris and in general less of every piece of shrapnel, but I was going to places I thought were closer to trails, closer to a cluster of rocks that someone might have hiked through and put these bigger findings, attractive findings on the rocks. And I wasn't wrong. I found a lot side of trails, picking people just finding it after rains, putting on rocks or tossing it aside so no one else will step on. Well, so let's get it out of the way. 90% of the findings are shrapnel and fragments of mortar shells. What's the rest? Well, the rest is maybe the bigger findings. It's other parts of the mortar shells, the fins, the tails, some dismembered, some still intact fully, different types of them. Some are just the shells themselves, no tail attached, but you can see the shell is mostly intact. Some are deflowered, meaning I can see the tail, I can see most of the still, but it's open up, it's blown up. And the rest, well, the rest is all the other unique stuff if it's not mortar related. What is it then? Well, you can see a lot of them are just cartridges of used bullets from rifles. It's my assumption that other than lobbing mortars on, they would actually charge those barrels that were used as targets and put bullets in them. Some of the bullets are looking to me like 303, meaning post-World War II or World War II era British rifles. I cannot vouch that these are actually from the time that the British were drilling here with fire exercises. It could be, well, we know that a lot of their gear was left behind and used by the Israeli army. So it could be not used by British, but you can definitely see the stuff I don't recognize in the British use. What else? Well, M16 cartridges, used and used. That's definitely not British. And 9mm used cartridges, meaning could be pistol. I doubt it. Most likely the Uzi era. People would charge the barrels, attack, assault the hill, and would just pepper the barrels. What else? Unused bullets dropped. Maybe there was a misfire. Someone had to toss it. These bullets can go from, well, so far, M16 unused. I found today, actually, see them later on video, a Fear V, which the cartridge is open, but at the top you could see the point is actually somehow inside of it. Like it was maybe someone put it in there or just, I don't know, some accident, but I believe the tip is inside the cartridge. Other than that, a lot of spent cartridges, like I said, of different types, and some sort of bullets that I found every day. These bullets, they don't look like everything I know. Maybe some sort of World War II or One era bullet cartridge unused. Looks to me like it's unused, but it's all rusted up. I will try to document. So what is the process? Well, I will try everything. I will definitely try to improve get a harness or a chest harness to stabilize and use two hands, so the videos will be more clear. But the routine is that take me, take the dog, or don't take the dog, take a backpack which is empty aside from a bottle. And I just fill that backpack up in like 2 or 3 hours of afternoon. It just need sun, daylight, sometimes not even sun. I do it during the rain. Just go out and fill that backpack, and somehow in 2 to 3 hours it's full. It's full to the point I'm coming back hunched from the weight of the metal. Basically, I pick up after 2 or 3 hours. The day is almost done. If it's afternoon, the sun sets. Could be morning dew. Over half of the year here, we have the dew is coming in the evening, but it's not really enough to do anything. But during these times that I'm recording right now and showing, definitely rain each day, each night, meaning the water will float up stuff, distance, uncover stuff. Um, Definitely it will float stuff to be uncovered and covered. I do not know, but I do need the sun, so each period of video is a different day, and between them, yeah, something might be uncovered. I see it on the next day. I go to the same place and there's something new on the rock beds, and anywhere else it could also be covered. This time of the year it's very hard aside from the colors because the bushes are flourishing and some of the plants will die, and in the summer we'll have much more uncovered land, but obviously no rain or not enough rain during the day to have a difference from the next day. But you will see in other videos that I migrate from the southern slope, which is more exposed, and it's just basically the jackpot every time you go there. And we will go around, and you will see that the ground is more covered with the plants, and there is less. Everywhere there's rocks, rock beds, everywhere you can see the dirt itself, there's less of the small shrapnels and less of the bigger findings. Other than that, yeah, that's basically it. That's the contract. Go out there. If the Earth would wanted it, it would keep it. If it keeps floating it up, doesn't want it, pick it up. And after so many years that this area wasn't used as a live fire exercise, the amounts are just mind-blowing to see it still can be picked up every day um, in debris or spent munitions. I've only seen one tail, one mortar tail, which was decaying. Maybe it was left in the sun. Maybe it's different kind of mortar tail and type, but it was definitely decaying to the point that the tail, it's actually here, it will be shown eventually, the tail was decaying. It was just dusting away. You touch it and it just goes to dust, like the last stage of rust actually. Stuff just decomposed to dust as you touched them. Aside from these long videos that just no edits, show what goes on during those hours in small clips of this is a find, this is the next find. There will be shorts coming. The shorts will be mostly individual clusters of each day, showing only the bigger finds of the day, stuff that are interesting from the bigger finds, and the stuff that interesting from the smaller finds. Obviously, not every spent bullet cartridge is gonna be there, but some of those that are interesting in look will be shown. Thank you for taking part in this step one of the journey. If you find in the future that you want to support this, it will be most welcome because this is a free time activity. Now you could say, why donate to this guy? He might be, Jewish, Israeli, we're not supportive of this. Well, I don't want to bring politics here, but this village specifically, you will hear Arabic in the background. There's people from different villages, definitely Arabs, Muslims or Christians, I don't know, but they own olives inside here. So they go to the olive orchards and they tend to the trees to get ready to the oil season. And sometimes they come with their family. That means women and children, and they don't just work because they come on the weekends. They celebrate, they eat. The kids wander around. I don't want anyone stepping or getting cut or, God forbid, exploded. Other than that, we have agreement with at least two herd owners. One of them bring cows for a few months of the year. They stay inside their herds. The villagers here, they benefit. They don't need to cut the trees or pay to someone to do it. And in the summer, there's less chance of a fire. The other owner, he has keys actually. He comes in on his own with the herd every day, mostly sheep and goats, but he has also cute little shepherd dogs, and I always see him with more of his family. He's never alone. So he brings his kids. I can see them with their school backpacks, girls. They wander around. They don't stay on the trails, obviously. And yeah, I don't want them picking up or getting cut or, God forbid, also getting exploded. And these guys, of course, are also not Jewish. Aside from that, the gate is open, the door is open, the hands are open, and we have a lot of neighbors from the next villages, other villages which are not Jewish, and they come here during the time of the day, and this is just open nature, just the picnics. They wander off, they pick some herbs and plants they know, and same here. I just want to take care of this for everyone, basically. No politics and religion mixed. Obviously, a lot of people are walking here, also like me, with their dogs, just to hike. Um, there's some that just wander off too, away from the trails and walk side of the this side of town, as one could say. And I just wanna be the one doing this, making sure that nothing will happen. So this is gonna be added, of course, later on at the finish because I forgot to say the rest of my theories on why the southern slope is the most rich of this kind of smaller shrapnel and the bigger findings. Well, southern slope might have been less covered throughout the years because of the sun, meaning that every year everyone that was doing it were seeing a hill with more plants um, to the duration wherever they came to drill it. So, because it was more visible, they placed the barrels here. Obviously, they might be more barrels, but the only ones I found around the smaller, higher hill, which is obviously more recognizable, sorry, because it's higher. Maybe you just place those barrels on the southern side. Tell them this is your target, aim for that. Meaning most of the side just, spend decades here. It could be the water flow because there's less plants, roots, and just more dirt and rocks. And those rocks would get the water flowing from the rain on them, and voila, the debris would stay. Because of the fraction, the water would keep floating, but the debris would stay on the rocks. Also, could be that this is the area because their bells are on the southern slope. This is the area they were aiming at. The mortars themselves were placed southern, and they were shooting from south to north. And just most of the shells landed on the southern slope, and tails, bigger parts, smaller parts, just this is where they aim at, and nothing floated. Just this is where they aimed at, and this is where they landed. This is also maybe why it's more visible to see the bullets. But summer come, and this will all be turned around when most of the plants that don't last without water will decay and the earth will be more visible around. Maybe I will find more bells on our slopes. Maybe I will find more debris. Right now it's mostly a waste of time to be away from the southern slope. It still amazes me that I can come back like 2 weeks in a row and find stuff. But yeah, right now with the coverage of plants on the land and the land being red metallic, it's very hard to find anything on the other sides. The more you get away from the southern slope, the less stuff you can find. Could be obviously already found bigger stuff, bullets and shrapnel around wider, even on the smaller, on the bigger hill, but it's less visible in cluster. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. See you on the next one.